is 7:00 p.m. I'd like to open this committee workshop of the Borough of Mechanicsburg for July 7th, 2020. This is the standing committees of Borough Council. So we will, first of all, approve the committee minutes from March the 3rd, 2020. COVID virus kind of got in the way of this section of our meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the March 3rd meeting? So moved. A second? Second. Okay, I think that was Mr. Anthony who gave the motion, and Mr. Whitcomb the second. Unless I hear a negative response, we record the vote as unanimous, and the motion carries. All right, first of all, municipal and community outreach. Mrs. Agerton.
We have not met, but we will be meeting before the end of the summer. That's great.
Very good, thank you. Community and economic development, Mr. Miller.
We have not met, but I believe Roger has. Do you have an update on comprehensive plan?
Yes, yes I do. If you don't have anything else?
I don't have anything of it.
I spoke to Carolyn Diego yesterday via Zoom. We discussed the comp plan, the update. This came out of the Finance Ordinance Administration Committee meeting. She has some very interesting ideas she'd like to try. They're going to put together a proposal to bring down to council for council to look at. It's going to have some new ideas. It's also going to look at give a brief history of what that is in the current comp plan that is not workable right now and stuff like that. So, but they are going to do a proposal as to what they're looking at, what it would cost. I did tell her that there's a chance that we could we may have to put this out for a bid for an RFP and proceed from there. But they have a lot of data that was not included in the comprehensive plan due to keeping the size down. That they're more than willing to share and use. It may need updated, but they are currently working in Silver Spring Township with Silver Springs, so we can save some time on travel costs and stuff like that if we use them. They're very familiar with it. They're very excited about some new and innovative ideas to use the comp plan. One is it won't really be a book. We'll have a book here. We'll have a book with all the stuff in it, but it's more GIS based, so it would be more fluid, and looking at it online would make it easier for the residents and for council to keep track of it. So it's something pretty neat. They want to come. They would like to get something ready, get it to council probably the second meeting in August, and then we can proceed from there.
Can we make that a joint meeting of council and the planning commission?
We can do that. It's not really. It's more under the community. I'll wait till we get to the Finance Ordinance Administration to give you an update on the planning commission discussion I had on the codified ordinance update. But she's really excited about it. She knows that Legacy Park is moving along. That the borough is not really, the zoning ordinance that we have right now is for new and growing communities. With the borough being built out the way it is, our zoning ordinance is kind of not fitting real well, especially in certain areas like downtown, like Allen Street and a few of the other ones. They're aware of that, and they'd like to look at trying something maybe more towards adaptive reuse of the structures. And it kind of really ties in with the article you sent today.
I was just going to mention that I sent an article to council members. If you haven't looked at your email, it's containing an attachment from the company that I work for. It's a very interesting presentation on how COVID-19 is accelerating trends that were already in real estate, but now COVID-19 is accelerating those trends. It's populations moving out of urban centers to the suburban areas. And it discusses how there are areas where suburban locations like Mechanicsburg could be positively impacted by an influx of population from urban centers and what those specifically were looking for, like walkability and amenities. So I encourage you to take a look at that article. It's very interesting. And just keep that in the back of your mind when we discuss things like the comprehensive plan, which are going to lay the groundwork for the next 5 to 10 years and how we plan for the future and the community we want to have and making an attractive place for people to work and live. And because increasingly, those two things are going to be the same thing. So yeah, it's interesting, and I do think that it ties in well with the comprehensive plan.
It does, and it was a lot of the keywords that were in your article that you sent, go right along with what she was discussing, her and I were discussing yesterday. I did tell her that, our planning commission is not quite the same makeup as it used to be, and they're well aware of that. They're going to provide us with, things that, in-kind work that we can do to try to help offset some of the costs. So, there's a lot of data gathering. Cumberland County has just completed their comprehensive plan, so they'll have a ton of information. Kirk Stoner has already offered that to us, when we go to update ours, so we're in pretty good shape with that.
Good. Just one other item, speaking of the comprehensive plan, and something that we sort of accidentally implemented, because of COVID-19, and to give businesses like the G-Man the opportunity to open their doors for business with social distancing. We opened up Railroad Avenue, as a lot of people know. How is that going?
The heat. Well, the first weekend we had storms, rain wasn't real. There were a few people out there. I know Councilman Egerton was up there. It's being used. It's not being used quite as heavily as what we thought it would be. Of course, now that, the restaurants are open 50% capacity, there's not quite as much of a call for it. But, and then the heat the last couple of weeks has really put a dent in the way it's being used. So, I was going to bring that up tonight. I'd like to give it a couple more weeks. Maybe let's council look at it at the second meeting in July, and see if we want to extend it or if we want to just pull it down and let it go. Of course, that's going to depend on what happens with, the governor's orders on social too.
I'd like to see, if there's any way we could get some usage information on it. Positive, negative feedback.
I mean, a lot of mine is anecdotal, other than the fact that, I go by and see who's out there, what's going on. It's not being used as much through the day as I thought it would be. I thought, the mornings, with the coffee shop opening up, but, I thought they would be using a lot more, and they're not.
I actually heard that at one point there was a little bit of a conflict because the G-Man put out tables and somebody other than a G-Man customer used them. And there was, I don't even know how that came to be third, fourth, fifth hand.
See, that wasn't supposed to, and that was what, it's not Mr. Phelan, it's his son-in-law, that was the manager of the G-Man, or the owner of the G-Man. Our original conversation was, it is borough space, you can put tables out there, there's gonna be other restaurants put tables out there. It's not, it's open for whoever it was. His original conversation was made that it didn't matter to him who was, if somebody came from JoJo's with a pizza, they were fine to sit at his table.
That easily went around and passed down,
Yeah, could it have been clients complaining, or was it?
I think it was maybe a waitress that was, because, she's out there serving and.
Probably didn't know.
Well, they're not supposed to be doing that anymore.
But I mean, like I said, you were saying, but I could see that happening.
They weren't supposed to be serving outside, it was supposed to be for the takeout, the consumption of takeout food. They weren't supposed to have waitresses out there, other than to clean the tables off, and disinfect things. That was part of the original stipulation we had with them.
I think I've seen drinks out there.
Well, I know that the alley's clean whenever they're done, the next time it gets clean. Yeah, I would keep an eye on
They
that.
also take out drinks.
Yeah. Yeah, 64 ounces of mixed drink.
Yeah, what I've been down there, they've been very good at following the rules, not over-serving people, kind of keeping an eye and going out and cleaning up the table. So I think so far they've done a really good job.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the concerns we had at the beginning are not a concern.
have you seen any negative or positive, I guess one way or the other, relative to the fact that the road is shut down? Traffic-wise, or I know traffic is lighter than it normally is, but has there been delivery issues? Have you heard anything on that?
Other than the one I just heard this evening, no.
Well, I know there's a lot of people who use that alley to go back into the parking lot.
Yeah, and well, yes, there are, and that really wasn't, the only one that I've heard was when the news got out that we were gonna do this, the beauty school there. Debbie Ralph, that's not her name anymore, but that's how I know her. Debbie Ralph, called me and said about, she's not open now, but, where's where people are gonna park and this and that. I said, there's a 75-car parking lot right behind there that's free.
Right.
And that's where most of her students parked anyway.
Right.
So, she was okay with it. She realized that it was gonna be, benefit everything else. I don't know if the salon is open back up yet or not. I think they did. But it impacted 5 parking spaces. So.
Okay, anything else from? Thank you very much. Finance Administration and Ordinance, Mr. Anthony?
No, we've kind of covered a couple of the topics on our desk, including comprehensive plan. You're going to talk maybe, Roger, a little bit about where we are on the ordinance and on the other piece that we talked about earlier today.
Okay, I presented the committee went over the legal review of the codified ordinance. We covered the entire ordinance, covered the entire thing during the finance meeting the other night. Thank you guys, by the way, that was fantastic to go through that whole thing in that amount of time. The committee had recommended that I go to the planning commission with the zoning ordinance. They agreed with the committee and everyone else, in my opinion, that we take a look at the comprehensive plan before we do too much with the zoning ordinance. And then again, EPD, our consultant on the original comprehensive plan in 2010, agreed that before you do anything with the zoning ordinance, you need to look at what you want to do with the comprehensive plan, get it directed as to how you want to go with it. They also agreed that the International Code Council has a very good, concise, easy to understand zoning ordinance that we could adopt very easily into the Borough of Mechanicsburg. One of the other things that we wanted to look at was the parking issue, and this is something that the Planning Commission agreed on. The amount of parking spaces we have requirements for different things in the borough is a little high, and it's very restrictive. And actually, the chairman of the Planning Commission at the time has since written, when we wrote the zoning ordinance the way it is, and as strict as what it is, he has since changed his mind a little bit, now that he's no longer in the certified planning stage, to loosen up small suburban town parking requirements. It's actually wrote a 3-page article on the whole thing, where he argues that zoning ordinances are often restrictive on parking. So we're going to take a look at that. I did contact the Ecode 360, who is doing the legal review of the codified ordinance. I asked them for another 30 days on top of the July 27th is when we're supposed to have it returned. So I asked them for another 30 days. They're going to give that to us till I get through and make all the changes council or the committee had requested. And at the next meeting, council would make the final okay on that. I'd take the committee's recommendation. And then we can send that back and get the ordinance from them to modify the ordinances. They're thinking probably end of October, they should have the new ordinances ready and the overall ordinance available for council to adopt. And then we'll have to go through the legal process with all that. But everything's moving forward. Like I said, the planning commission agreed the zoning ordinance should be held off until we can do that. The final thing that I spoke to EPD about was a timeline on this. They're thinking that by next October, comprehensive plan, zoning plan, and the codified ordinances all be updated, and figure out a way to, they're going to figure out a way, they have examples of how to put the comprehensive plan online, GIS based, which makes it easier for the residents, makes it easier for council. We're carrying it in our pockets with our phones and everything else, so, we'll have it with us and we can go out and, and it becomes an actual tool then instead of just a book that sits on a shelf. Okay?
Yep.
That's all I have.
Well, the other thing we talked about was, you're moving along with our new financial plan.
Yes, as a matter of fact, the letter of engagement was signed, and I'll have that returned to them tomorrow. So that's ready to go. Lisa and I have this is the general obligation note series request for proposals. Joe Pierce went through, he had some markups on here. Lisa and I have to get together and finalize this, and then we'll send it back over to PFM for them to go forward with it. Once we get the letter of engagement taken care of, then we're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I would like to just reiterate my thanks to the committee for a job well done on that code issue. I was here and I was amazed at how thorough you were in such a short amount of time. So you're all to be commended, Roger, John, and Kyle. Thank you. Okay, Personnel Committee, Mr. Whitcomb.
The only thing we have is a matter of an executive session that I know of.
Okay, thank you. Property, Parks, and Recreation, Mrs. Agerton.
The Parks and Rec met last Monday and did a parks tour. They'll be compiling their findings and putting that into a comprehensive plan. And they are working on creative ways and partnerships over the summer to engage our community members to keep them active.
Very good, thank you. Public Works and Safety, Mr. Pellman.
Well, I don't think it's a big secret that we lost our chairperson for this committee. I think, and I know.
That's why I bumped it to you.
And I know nothing about, unless Roger has something that falls under the purview of that committee, I don't know of anything.
Public Works, the other thing is, I don't know if anybody saw the Facebook post we just put out this afternoon. We have a sinkhole developing on the corner of Market and Main Street, by the PNC. Rogel will be out tomorrow to excavate. It's affecting the curb and sidewalk also. So, we posted that as soon as we found out that they would be out tomorrow to work on it. It's gonna be a pretty substantial one. The state's been notified already. PennDOT said, yes, go ahead, block one lane if you have to, do whatever you need to do. And PA1 call has already been called in, so, it opened up sometime this morning, and, we noticed it probably right around lunchtime. And I was out there actually on the phone with you, Councilman Weber, at that time, so it's a pretty nasty one.
That's right there, the manhole, or the drainage cover, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like the pipe coming out of that inlet broke.
Yeah.
And collapsed and let the water down through.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order for committees? All right, we will adjourn that portion of the meeting, and we are now ready for our conditional use hearing for Legacy Park for signage. I'm going to turn this over to Solicitor Coyne. And wait for our stenographer to get all set here.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Lisa. Okay, this is a date, time, and place for the conditional use hearing for the modification of the T&D requirements to permit 7 proposed monument signs in the Legacy Park T&D district. We have identifying for the record certain exhibits. The borough's exhibit number 1 is the application dated February 25th, 2002. We have an extension from the applicant's counsel dated March 16th, 2020. A second extension dated May 18th, 2020. And Exhibit 4 will be the revised Legacy Park permanent signage, revised June 4th, 2020. And Exhibit 5 will be the proof of publication of this hearing, having appeared in the June 22nd and June 29th edition of the Sentinel. Also, without objection by the Borough, we have applicant's exhibit number 1, which is, will be part of the record and has been placed before, council, this evening. So we have, is the applicant represented by council? You come forward and identify yourself, please.
Yes, good evening, James Strong with Ms. Niece, Wallace, and Nurk here on behalf of Landmark.
And Ken Strong, is there anyone going to be testifying, providing anything?
Mr. Schrader with Landmark is here. I was going to handle the presentation, and he'll be available to answer any questions that may come up.
So let's just have Mr. Schrader and Mrs. Szarski sworn if they're going to give any testimony this evening. And before you start, I just would also, for the record, identify the fact that the property has been properly posted. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The notifications have been issued in comporting with the MPC. So the two witnesses, if they're just get sworn, and then Mr. Strong will be presenting.
Gentlemen, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge? Thank you so much. And Mr. Schrader, would you spell your last name for me?
Schrader.
Thank you very much.
Good evening again, Jamie Strong with McNeese, Wallace, and Nurk. I apologize, I have not yet figured out how to wear a mask and glasses without fogging my glasses up, so please bear with me. As I mentioned, I'm here tonight with Dave Schrader from Landmark, and what's before you tonight is a conditional use application requesting approval of 7 freestanding signs for Legacy Park. The Planning Commission reviewed the application at its meeting on June 22nd and recommended approval of the proposed signs. We do have a revised sign exhibit, which is applicant exhibit A1, which you have before you tonight, and we'll refer to that. And I will note, when we discuss the signs, a couple of changes to that exhibit that resulted from the meeting with the Planning Commission. By way of background and a bit of an update on the project, as you know, final plans for both Phase 1 and Phase 2 have been approved and recorded. Vertical construction in Phase 2, so that's Market Square, the commercial section has started, including Wolf Brewing. There's a very active market in Phase 1, and the final plan for Phase 3 was submitted at the end of last month. The signs that are before you tonight, Landmark is, planning for the permanent freestanding signs that will serve the Legacy Park development. The zoning ordinance doesn't specifically regulate signage in a traditional neighborhood development like Legacy Park, but the T&D provisions in the zoning ordinance do permit innovations and modifications by conditional use, and so that's why we're before you tonight with a conditional use application. The narrative that was submitted with the application, which would be part of Borough Exhibit 1, goes through all of those ordinance requirements and discusses them. And so I won't go over those, but what I would like to do is go over with you the signs that are proposed. And so turning to Exhibit A1, if you turn to the second page, that has descriptions of each of the signs, the elevations and renderings of those signs, and then the locations for those signs. So what I thought would be helpful is just to walk through the signs that are proposed, where they're proposed in Legacy Park, and then discuss some of the details for each of those signs. So the first sign, that's identified as sign number 1. So you see on the left side what sign number 1 looks like. The first location for sign number 1 is out at the entrance off South Market, and that would be a one-sided backlit monument sign. So it would look as you see here on the left side for sign number 1. The second location is also, or second sign is also a sign 1, and that would be in the traffic circle at Legacy Park Drive and Despina Drive. That, also would be the monument sign that you see there, sign number 1. It would be a single-sided sign, and it would be lit with spotlights. The third sign that's proposed is identified as sign number 2. And the first location for that type of sign would be at the Despina Drive entrance to Legacy Park. That is a single-sided sign, and one change to the exhibit states that sign would be lit with spotlights, but following the discussion with the Planning Commission, the proposal is for that sign to be backlit. The fourth sign would again be sign number 2, and it would be located at the Allendale Road entrance to Legacy Park. That would be a double-sided sign that would be located on one or the other side of the road there coming off Allendale. So if you see on the exhibit, it says install smaller monument sign in either area shown above in yellow. So one sign is proposed at that location. It would just be in one of those two locations identified. Another change from what's stated on the exhibit, the sign would be backlit as opposed to being lit with spotlights. And again, that was a change that was made following the discussion with the Planning Commission. The fifth sign, again, it would be sign number 2. But it is proposed to be located at the entrance to the 55-plus future phase for Legacy Park. It would be a monument sign. It would be single-sided, and the proposal is for that sign to be lit with spotlights. So again, that would be a sign as you enter that phase. You would see the sign. When you're leaving the phase, you will not see a sign. It's a single-sided sign. The last two signs relate to the Market Square, the commercial area. So the first is sign number 3, and that's a large monument sign that would be located out at the intersection of South Market Street and Legacy Park Drive. So that sign is intended to identify the commercial tenants located within Market Square. It would be a double-sided sign, and it would be backlit. And then the last sign is identified as sign number 4, and that sign would be located more to the interior, so where you would turn from Legacy Park Drive into the Market Square commercial area. That monument sign would be located there to identify commercial tenants. It is a double-sided sign, and it would be backlit. So those are the 7 proposed monument signs that are a part of the conditional use application. I would note there is a third page to this exhibit, but those signs are not part of this application. We're not requesting approval of those signs. So it's just the 7 monument signs on the second page of the exhibit. So with that, I would just respectfully request that you approve the conditional use application to permit the 7 proposed signs, and we can certainly answer any questions you may have regarding those signs.
I have 2 comments, actually, if I may. The one being, I come from a real estate background, and I think that it would be nice to designate, especially on sign 1 on the South Market Street location, that Legacy Park is in Mechanicsburg Borough. That's just my opinion. It would be nice if the sign said Legacy Park Borough, Mechanicsburg, or some designation that it's in the borough, because that is a gateway to our town, and we see that Legacy Park is this new center of our town, and it's a growing aspect of the town which will have pride in the borough of Mechanicsburg. And then the only other sign that would be going to be appropriate for would be number 2 on the opposite end of the development. And then my only additional comment on those 2 locations is that it'd be on the north side of the street going into the community rather than the south side.
For the-
If it's on the south side, it would be, the sign seems like it would be facing a residential area rather than, towards, away from the community and away from,
For the sign at the entrance from Allendale Road.
from Allendale.
Correct. Steve, I don't know if you have any thoughts on.
Yeah, I do have, a response to your first, concern, is that I know on our plans for phase one, we do have an area designated with easements for Mechanicsburg Borough. It's at the beginning, southernmost portion of our property line, just before you get to Legacy Park, that is specifically designated for Mechanicsburg Borough and for you to put a sign there of your choice. So there is that opportunity, if that would be acceptable.
That is acceptable. I just wanted to make sure, you know, when I talk to people about it, they're not sure it's in Mechanicsburg Borough.
Mhm.
So, I think that it would be important for people to know that, because, there's a lot of developments in and around Mechanicsburg, and the fact that there's one here in the borough is unique. So, I have no problem, I love the signs, I have no other design comments or questions.
Just to clarify, again, on sign number 2, and, I'm looking at the one, at the future 55 phase entrance. According to the chart, there's only gonna be one sign there too as well.
Correct.
That's not indicated on the drawing, I don't think, unless I misread that. It says either area, I guess.
Yeah, it just doesn't have a bubble around it, but it would be at one of those 2 locations.
That's fine. That's fine.
Is there anyone in the audience here has any questions of the applicant or representative based on the presentation thus far? Record indicates nothing. Okay. Mr. Zazurski, as the zoning officer for the borough, you reviewed the application, is that correct?
Yes,
And you attended the planning commission meeting on June 22nd, is that correct?
that is correct.
And the recommendation from the planning commission was what?
The recommendation from the planning commission was, approval of, with the condition that the, the second number 1 sign and the number 2 sign, have the backlit forced light letters like sign number 1. They're the first sign number 1. That was their recommendation, that they all be the same lighting style instead of the spotlights.
And as I understand tonight from the applicant and council is that there is some, modification in incorporating that condition as relates to sign number 2 on Christina Drive and sign number 2 on Allendale back entrance there, that would be backlit. But the proposal as presented tonight for sign number 1 on the inside circle of Legacy Park and the future 55 plus are not going to be backlit as presented here. Is that correct?
Our preference for just specifically the sign that is located, the number 1 sign that's located in the circle, have spotlights on it versus backlit. And in addition to that, because of the landscaping and everything that we're gonna have there in front of it.
I was just asking just for clarification. The planning commission though had recommended all those.
The planning commission had recommended all of those. In a conversation I had with the developer after the planning commission, we were discussing the landscape plan that he has around the one in the traffic circle, the number 1 sign in the traffic circle. They would prefer to use the spotlights. And that's what Mr. Schrader was talking about right here, so.
Okay, but just for the record, that our planning commission's recommending all of them be backlit.
The planning commission had recommended all of them backlit. Now, and that's where I think Mr. Schrader can elaborate more on their stance on that.
Well, before we get to that, as far as the review of the, under our ordinance, this does not involve any land development development, is that correct?
Correct. It's already been taken care of on the land development side.
And, as far as any endangerment to the public health or safety, is there any issue with the proposed 7 signs?
None that I've seen.
Okay, and there's no existing sign standards for the TND district. And that's why we're here for the conditional use, as stated by Attorney Strong, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as the, zoning officer, your recommendation is for approval, in line with the conditions from the planning commission, is that correct?
Correct.
Based on that questioning here, Mr. Strong, do you have any, comments?
I guess I'll let Mr. Schrader, touch on the discussion at the planning commission meeting. It's my understanding that there was then some discussion about sign number 1 that's located interior to the traffic circle, that's located to the interior of the project, whereas the other signs are more out at the exterior, so there was less of a concern about an interior sign being lit with spotlights, and that Landmark's preference, given the landscaping that's proposed in that traffic circle as part of sort of that overall entrance, would be to light that with spotlights. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that. But.
Well, other than I guess we're kind of at a point with that type of sign, as far as its construction, whether spotlights are going to be the best option for that, or putting in the backlighting as well. So it may be an either-or option. I'm not sure exactly which direction we're going to go with that one yet, but we're looking more for the spotlights for that particular application.
Are there any questions from council with regard to presentation thus far, for the public hearing portion?
Is there any other, if I may, was there any other explanation given as to why they wanted the backlit versus the spotlight? Except for uniformity.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily uniformity, it was more along the lines of, they felt that glare has been a big issue out there with, not necessarily Landmark's project, but with the warehouse that's been put in out there. And some of the neighbors were concerned with glare because of the big spotlights they have on the warehouse. They have to be daylit out there. With the spotlights, they were concerned about the floodlights being over the top of it. The problem with that is now, that in this day and age, you can't do that. You have to, your spotlights are shining on, and it's a waste of energy to have the spotlight shining, up like that. And with the landscaping that's going to be around there and behind it, what Mr. Schrader and I discussed, it'll be shielded, it'll be blocked. So that's why they would like to see the spotlight. That was the only issue that there was with the backlighting.
Well, the spotlight won't be blinding people operating on the streets?
No, they'll be pointing towards the sign.
Towards the what?
Towards the sign.
Okay, not out where the people can see them when they're driving in or driving out.
Yep.
Any other questions from council? Any questions from the public based on the presentation made? With that, then, I think this would conclude the conditional use hearing. I turn it back over to the President Thompson.
All right, so unless we hear any other discussion, we will close the conditional use hearing. I'd like to give 2 minutes time before we start the actual council meeting. Just for everybody to get back on track here a little bit. Call this Borough Council of Mechanicsburg to order for July 7th, 2020. We'll begin with the pledge to the flag and followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
President Weber.
Here.
Vice President Miller. Councilwoman Anderson. Councilman Anthony.
Present.
Thomas.
Here.
Whitcomb. Mayor Ritter.
Here.
Solicitor Coin.
Here.
Engineer Rogowski.
Here.
Chief Myers.
Here.
Manager Suzuki.
Here. And it looks like we have a quorum. Are there any guests this evening?
None that I'm aware of, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any citizens' comments or requests? Hearing none, we'll move forward to correspondence.
I have three pieces of correspondence tonight, sir. One is with regret. We received the letter from Sonny Podolak, who was appointed at the last council meeting to fill the seat of councilman with Jack Winchell. She cannot serve due to the Civil Service Act. It would be a violation of the Civil Service Act for her to serve on Borough Council. So she is basically resigning from the position that she was appointed to. So we have a vacancy again on council. That will be, I can add that to the agenda for approval tonight, and we can proceed from there. The second letter, this is one that, we like receiving these in the borough, we really do. This is what makes all the other heartache in the last 2 months very worthwhile. This letter came from Maddie Miles Curtis in Virginia, who lives on Washington Street in the Borough, Mechanicsburg. I'm gonna read this entire letter, it's pretty quick. Dear Borough Office, me and my family are interested in building our own pool. Below I have written what I think we'll need to do to make the pool. Step 1, call PP&L Electric Company or any electric company to mark off where wires such as gas lines are. Step 2, figure out where we want the pool. Step 3, dig out the desired area where we want the pool. Step 4, lay a tarp and weigh it down. Step 5, fill it with water. Step 6, party. I hope you approve this plan. Sincerely, Maddie Miles Curtis in Virginia. This is what it's all about. This brings a smile to everybody's face, no matter how bad the day is. This one came in today, and to be honest with you, when my day was going today, I needed this. Now, back to the business. I got one more piece of correspondence. We received a letter from the Wildcat Foundation concerning the building in the park, the new field house and stuff they're putting in out in there. I'm not going to read this all. I will forward this out to all of council so they have it. The long story short is we have a water line that goes up through Memorial Park Drive. It is not deep enough, and we end up emptying it every winter so it doesn't freeze. It was never installed to the proper depth. This is why we shut off the bathroom water, and the pool water, all that stuff is turned off, and it's dried out. They want to use this field house year round, so they're going to need water supply over the winter and everything else. It is going to, instead of digging up Park Road and causing an issue, Dr. Lady and I have had some discussion about potentially running a new water line up along our sewer line that goes up on the north side of the sycamore trees, through the park, up past the park garage, and then into the field house. They, with the COVID-19 and all this stuff, their fundraising came up a little short. They asked if the borough would contribute the installation of this water line. Their estimated cost is around $35,000. There's been some discussion back and forth with the school district. President Weber, you and I, and Dr. Lady have had some discussions about this. We have come up with an idea for potentially something that we're missing in that end of the park. The borough specifically is missing in that end of the park are restrooms. We have Porta Johns out there. The Porta John gets tipped over, the wind blows it over, all this and everything else. What we would propose to the school district would be to basically, where the locker room, the locker room building is now, build it out to the fence, or move the fence to the end of that building, put 2 doors in there, one for a men's room, one for a ladies' room, ADA compliant, just a simple bathroom, basically, is what it would amount to. We would have the automatic locks, the same as what we have on our current park restrooms. And we would be able to provide bathroom facilities at that end of the park, instead of people running the whole way down to Washington Street to use the restroom. So, if they would provide the building, we do have some fixtures that we could put in there. I'd have to verify that they're ADA compliant, but we can provide the fixtures, we'll provide the electric for the timer, and they provide us the space and everything like that in exchange for our contribution to the Wildcat Foundation for $35,000.
But that's not their property.
It is not their property. However, I think the whole thing is going to benefit the borough in the long run. That old chain link fence is going to be replaced with newer fence. We're going to get a more of an impact appearance out there with that building out there. This is something that Dr. Lady and I have had a discussion about that, you know, to keep council apprised of what this is gonna look like, how this is gonna go. This is the year, I mean, to be quite honest with you, this is the year to do this if we're gonna do it. The school time is gonna be set back. Some of the sports programs are gonna be set back because of the COVID. We don't have the pool open this year because of the COVID. I think we're looking for any kind of silver lining we can find in what's going on right now. This would be one that would go a long way towards cooperation, trying to build some of that cooperation back between the school district and the borough. So I think this is one that I think we could find some kind of cooperation and perhaps get something to benefit our residents and park users out of this on an ongoing basis.
It's my understanding too that these restrooms will have no access to the field, nor will the field have access to them. These are only outside park use only, so we get the benefit of that. The other thing is, we would get the benefit of a freeze-proof line to our maintenance shed and to the gardens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So it's kind of a win-win in a way. But I think the best way for us to do it, this is just me talking, council will have to make this decision, is that it would be a contribution rather than they send us a bill for what it costs to do it. We're going to contribute X dollars and that's it. If it goes over that, it would be their dime. So I would suggest that we get some final details together and act on this at the next council meeting. We'll put it on the agenda for that.
We can do that. I can get a better presentation and get it, you know, maybe get some drawings and stuff so you guys can see what's going on with it, what it's gonna look like. We were looking for something that we could get the benefit out of this also, not just the aesthetic benefit, but, one of the things that we'd really like to do is get year-round water in that park garage. It will mean that I'm gonna have to insulate the office at least and, you know, put some kind of heat in there, but that's a small area in that garage. But if we're gonna have a winter like we had this year, there were people that worked in the park all winter long, and there was stuff to do all winter long.
Thank you. Anything else?
Actually, the last letter, I do have one more letter. That was the Gary Fate letter that I believe I provided the email to you guys, to everyone, where he is no longer interested in seeking the seat on council. He would ask that we appoint him to the municipal authority. I can add that to the agenda if...
Now procedurally, is that the way it should go? Council should make the appointment.
Council is the appointing authority for the authority.
The appointing authority for the authority. Now there was an interesting choice of words. Okay, so I would ask that you add it to the agenda.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Szewski. Approval of minutes from the special and regular meeting of council on June 16th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve both sets of minutes?
Sure.
Mr. Miller makes a motion. Second? Mrs. Agerton. Unless I hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous, and the motion carries. Engineer's report.
Mr. President, just two items. Number one, as residents may have been aware, late last week we implemented some revised signal timing in the borough. Subsequently got about 5,000 phone calls, I understand, through timing at Warner Street. We are working on a revised signal plan and going to PennDOT to correct that particular issue. So that should be done here in the very near future. Very easy fix. So apparently one got lost in the transcription to the current. So that's what that's about. And then the second issue is we're continuing to work with Roger on some proposed modifications of the pool. We're going to have a bid package together here within the next, probably by the next week, that we can get that out and get that work done. This construction's even yet.
Good.
That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. All right, community liaison reports, downtown partnership, Mrs. Agerton.
Downtown Partnership continues to meet on a monthly basis, and they are focused right now on the wrench hunt that will take the place of Community Day. It will go on from August 3rd to 8th. The goal being to engage community members to get back downtown and hunt for wrenches and tie in a historical component. So mark your calendar, and we'll have an app that everyone can download to be able to find those wrenches. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Very good, thank you. Library, Mr. Coleman?
Yes, the library is open again for regular hours. All floors are open. They are asking that you wear masks. They do have some new rules that people should be aware of. There's a particular door to enter through. They ask you again to wear a mask and to social distance once inside. The library has been making it mandatory to, when items are returned to the library, that they're placed in a book and media return bin where they quarantine it for 72 hours, and hopefully keeping it that long will eliminate any opportunity for the virus to live on those things. There is a time limit for people that are using the library to get on the internet, and that is 1 hour. The library has been, like everybody else, somewhat hampered in their money raising activities, but they are still having a 5K run, and it's not going to be the kind that they've had the previous few years, but it's going to be a virtual 5K run, and it's going to be held on August 8th. And if you're willing to make a payment and enter the virtual 5K run, it's on August 8th. You pick out a 5K course of your own, you send your best photo and post it on social media for a chance to win a special prize. And if you register by July 25th for this virtual 5K run, you're eligible to get a t-shirt. So the aim being still to raise money, because that is a big one for the library, the 5K run, but it's going to be under much different circumstances. I can also tell you the library is having a lot of their programs for kids, adults, and teens, but, and I would suggest that you get online to check out their website.
Very good. Well, I can attest that the only 5K run I would ever do would be virtual anyway. All right, Museum Association, there's a lot going on at the museum right now. Those of you who have gone by will notice that the quote-unquote outbuilding has now been constructed. It's not finished. We're waiting for building guy to come back from Virginia to finish the chinking portion of that. It's about half done. We have procured that the electric is being taken care of, as is the plumbing. And of course, we can't do any of that until the chinking is done. Next week, we have a firm that's coming in to refurbish the existing tavern. They're going to remove all the chinking, fix any of the rotting logs, and redo all that. It's going to be kind of a massive project, takes about 30 days, I think, or more. So you're going to see activity around there, but this is all in an effort, of course, to get the gardens finished and get all that we've been talking about for the last 2 years to come to fruition. We're very excited about it, and it's just something that's going to be really neat for the community, I think. That being said, Rebecca, the podium is yours.
Thank you. You all have a copy of my report. We've missed you. We're reopened, some at full-fledged capacity, some at 50%, but just about everybody has reopened. Under About Face, we've completed the environmental review required for a Cumberland Street View grant through the authority and through Cumberland County. For Alex and Ashley Martino, they're the new owners of the building that houses Smoke and Pickles. So this project, some of it has already been done as part of an About Face grant. What remains is painting the entire building 3 to 4 colors and a new awning that will stretch across the entire storefront. So we'll be getting on that in August. We have to get bids out for that. Jubilee Cake Studio, 6 West Allen Street, will be relocating to the Carlisle Pike in the Gateway Plaza. We hope to open by fall. That will leave that space open. The building that housed Veronique's Antiques has been sold. I don't know the new owners, and even the attorney who was representing the estate has never met them, but he indicates that their thinking now is that they would be leasing both the apartment and the retail space. It will not be owner occupied. Corey Leister has opened Inspired by You, and that's the middle unit in the former Napa Auto Parts, what will be the Battery Warehouse location on West Simpson Street. Cristiano on Main, the winery, has expanded their outdoor capacity, their outdoor courtyard area. We're going to be helping them with an additional About Face grant for that. Noteworthy Guitars is a COVID-19 victim, in that he re-upped his lease last fall, multi-year lease, and is moving to Georgia, has decided to retire and move to Georgia and rethink his life. So that's very unfortunate. But on the other hand, I'm working on a business expansion project in the downtown that would involve a $400,000 to $500,000 project with an existing business. You'll be hearing more on that in the next couple of months. The Borough loan program balance has been reduced because we had the Delicia settlement in June, so that's why that number is a little bit lower than it has been in months past. That's what I have. Anything from me? All right, thank you very much. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you very much. All right, are there any additions to the agenda?
I have 4 of them, sir.
Thank you.
The discussion of possible action to appoint Gary Fake Jr. to the Municipal Authority to fulfill the remainder of Jack Winchell's term to December 31st, 2021. Discussion of possible action to accept the resignation of Councilperson Sonny Podolak. Discussion of possible action to appoint a candidate to fill the remaining term of Councilwoman Podolak through January 3rd, 2022. Discussion of possible action to adopt Resolution 10-2020, appointing that councilperson.
All right, I would ask that if these are approved, that items 2, 3, and 4 be placed at the beginning of the agenda items rather than at the end. Any other discussion about that? All right, so we need a motion to approve the additions to the agenda. Second. Mr. Miller and Mr. Whitcomb. Unless you hear negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. Moving on, approval of the agenda. We need a motion to approve. Second. Again, Mr. Miller and Mr. Whitcomb. Unless you hear negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. All right, Mr. Szewski, you are up.
The action items before council on July 7th, 2020. Discussion of possible action to accept the resignation of Councilperson Sonny Podolak.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
All right. Second, and Mr. Miller seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. All right, next item.
Okay, this would be a roll call vote on this one, when we get the motion and second. Discussion of possible action to appoint a candidate to fulfill the remaining term of Councilwoman Podolak through January 3rd of 2022.
All right, do I hear a motion to accept that item?
Motion to accept and to appoint Joseph Booker for the position.
Oh, wait a minute.
I think you want to.
That'd be a roll call, right?
Well, I think you want to solicit some nominations.
Yes, I was getting to that. We have to list the nominees first, solicit the nominations. So what we're moving on now is to do that action item, which is, and then we'll go through the procedure.
You would accept the nomination, yeah, you would.
We have to offer nominations
for the seat.
Do the nominations, and then that would be the action.
That's what I was offering the nomination.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to open the nominations to the candidates.
Okay.
That's the procedurally where we
Yeah.
are. Yes, sir.
So, seconded, unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. All right, we have 4 applicants for the position. We have heard their interviews, we have read their resumes, and we originally had 7, then it was 6, now it is 4. And those are in alphabetical order: Joseph Booker, Dwayne A. McGee, Ron O'Neill, and Mark Stoner. So at this time, the nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Joseph Booker.
Okay,
I'd like to nominate Mark Stoner.
okay, are there any other nominations? The nominations are closed. So we do this in the order in which they were nominated, and this is a roll call vote. So,
Ready?
Madam Secretary.
For Joseph Booker. Anthony?
I believe Atherton is first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Atherton?
Yay.
Anthony?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Hellman?
No.
Weber?
Yes.
Whitcomb?
What are we doing here? I'm sorry, I missed that.
We have to do a roll call vote on
Only anybody was nominated. Okay. So we're doing the first one first? No.
Okay. So the total is 4 votes, which is the majority, and so Mr. Booker is elected to take the position. All right, so Mr. Booker is not present this
He
evening.
had a conflict with the.
So, okay. So, we need to now move to the next item, which I believe was the resolution.
Yes. And that would be discussion of possible action to adopt resolution 10/2020, appointing councilperson, or elected councilperson Booker to council.
Do I hear a second? Or do I hear a motion first?
So moved.
And a second. So, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I've placed the resolution in all council's seat this evening with a fill in the blank for the resolution, for your
Right.
information.
Right, thank you. Let the hearing make a response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. And the motion carries. Go ahead, Mr. Sidoti.
Discussion of possible action on the conditional use for signage at Legacy Park, 1017 South Market Street.
And just by way of edification for the minutes for this meeting, we had a conditional use hearing this evening. The planning commission has also reviewed this, as Mr. Zazursky has indicated, recommending approval of council, condition with all signs being backlit. I believe the applicant in the presentation tonight has indicated some of the signs to be backlit, and some not to be lit, no backlighting, but with spotlights. So that would be, I think, the position here is that what the council is going to have to take action on, that if you're approving the application as submitted or approving it as recommended by the planning commission.
Everybody clear on that?
There's only 2 signs that I believe are issued. One is
Two
exterior.
types of signs that would be affected by that, yeah.
I'll make the motion to, approve the conditional use for signs at Legacy Park with the stipulated.
Well, I was getting into or.
I prefer, I don't have an issue with the spotlighting in the center, so if they can do that as they wish. I'd like to see the backlighting at the entrance and, on the exterior sides of the development.
Why don't we just backlight the whole thing?
Well, I just let it to them, they can do what they want for the center, things that are in
Circle in the
the
center.
the circle in the center, and the 2 smaller ones they can spotlight, but the others on the exterior facing the South Market Street and Allendale Road, they should be backlit.
That would be, that is the whole meaning behind the conditional use. You can make that a condition of approval. So if that is what your wishes are, that the exterior lights be backlit, or the exterior signs be backlit and the interior lights be spotlit as proposed, you can make that.
As proposed is fine with me.
Okay.
And what I just said.
Are we clear?
No.
I didn't think so.
The one with the spotlight would be the interior, like the circle.
The one with the spotlight would be the number 1 on the interior circle.
that would be the only spotlight approved?
That would be the only one that we approved.
Because the proposal says spotlight for several, so I just wanna make sure we're clear.
I think they clarified, I think they clarified that during this.
I think we're just talking about the big one.
What I understood, and I believe what Councilman Miller is indicating, is basically a recommendation for the approval as submitted with the revisions that have occurred to the lighting package, since the planning commission met. Is that correct, Mr. Strong?
Yeah, the current proposal has all of the signs backlit with the exception of two. One is the sign in the traffic circle, and then the other sign was the one monument sign at the entrance to the 55+ phase, which is to the interior of the development. So those two signs are proposed to be lit with spotlights. The remaining 5 are proposed to be backlit.
There you go. That's acceptable for me, and I'll incorporate that into my motion.
Second. Now are we clear?
Yes.
Good, we have a second. Was that you, Mr. Anthony, Mr. Willis? Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. Next item.
Discussion of possible action on the waivers requested for the Mechanicsburg Area School District for the Northside Elementary Land Development Plan. I can read these off, we can do these all at once, correct, solicitor?
So you want to do one at a time?
Do one at a time, all right. Number 1 waiver is chapter 26, 125.5E, requires basin bottom grades, slopes to be a minimum of 2%. They're requesting 0% to increase storage volume, assure even water distribution, and promote infiltration. A backup low flow orifice will be installed in the event the basin does not drain properly.
All right, so we're gonna move on that one first.
Mr. President, this is a matter of course, this is a kind of an antiquated section of our current stormwater ordinance. We have recently been required by DEP and others to provide this flat bottom for the infiltration. So that's the background behind it.
Thank you, thank you. Do I hear a motion? So moved. Second. Mr. Anthony, Mr. Whitcomb seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, unless I hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. Next item.
Waiver number 2, chapter 26, 125.7F, requires concrete pipes for basins, requesting the use of HDD culverts to be used for the basin outflow.
What is the culvert compared to the pipe?
It's exactly the same thing. It's just the material. It's a change in material.
Oh, the material.
Yeah,
Okay.
and HDP.
Plastic.
Yeah, it's plastic. It's relatively new. Again, our ordinance a little bit behind time.
Okay.
Very good. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb. Second? Second. Mr. Anthony, second. Unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. Next item.
Okay, waiver number 3, chapter 26, 123A, paragraph 2, requires storm modeling to classify existing impervious as 100% meadow, requesting storm modeling to allow 20% of increased impervious to be classified as meadow.
Should be 20% of the existing impervious, right?
Impervious to be classified as meadow.
Mr. Rosky, anything to add to that?
Mr. President, this is a section of our ordinance we kind of reserve for the areas in the borough that we have flooding issues. This is not that particular borough, so we are, 20% is actually kind of the standard, and our ordinance goes above and beyond that. We would recommend that you grant the 20% in this particular case.
Thank you.
The waiver of concern.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb. Second? Second. Second from Mr. Tallman. Any other discussion? Unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. Next item.
Waiver number 4, chapter 26, 125.7D, requires basins with restricted access to have impoundment areas with side slopes no greater than 5:1, height vertical, requesting to provide 3:1 slopes to maximize the storage volume of the proposed basin. That should say basin there.
Mr. President, this is a situation that this is actually more like a rain garden than a true stormwater basin. 99% of the time, the water in this basin will be no deeper than a foot. So it's not a gigantic basin where you have a situation where you have a frequency that somebody could fall in there and knock it out.
3 to
want it more than traversable by a person, even an adult, or I'm sorry, an elementary school age child, particularly if the water's only 1 foot deep. So, we would recommend this particular case. As you're aware, the redevelopment plan, we're squeezing stuff into the existing site, we're trying to do the best we can with what we have available for us. So we recommend approval of that waiver.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion? Motion. Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb. A second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Miller. Any further discussion? Unless you hear a negative response, record the vote as unanimous. Next item.
Waiver number 5, chapter 26, 604, point F, point 4, paragraphs B and C. Requesting a waiver to be permitted to reduce required landscaping materials for the tract regarding trees and shrubbery over the entire site.
What are they doing there?
Yeah, so, our ordinance is incredibly restrictive when it comes to landscaping. I think we've granted this waiver in just about every plan that we've had, here in the last 10 years.
Particularly with the school.
The school. So they are providing landscaping, they are providing trees and shrubs. It's just not the quantity that the ordinance specifies. And the reason for that is our ordinance is geared a little bit more towards smaller lots, so it uses a percentage coverage of the lot. The very rare instance where we have larger lots in the borough, which correspond to the schools typically, if you planted that entire area in shrubbery, we have a tree farm. So, and we, once we granted this to like some parks as well, just because of the tract size, it becomes, no room for parking. So.
The example of that would be the Wildcat Center at the high school. The entire high school tract had to be counted towards this, and I think it was 240 trees. And they only then the footprint of the building, was what, 8,000 square feet. So that's what Greg's talking about being we're very restrictive on this section of the ordinance.
They're saying we might reduce it, but they're not saying how much they want to reduce it.
That was my question. Did they put in their,
so there is a landscape, plan in the, land development plan, which we'll take action on next, which by approving that, we'd be approving that particular plan. So that would be our vehicle by which, we would ensure that we don't get nothing.
Very good. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Agarton. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, unless I hear any response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. And the motion carries. Next item.
Discussion of possible action on the Mechanicsburg Area School District's North Side Elementary School addition and renovation land development plan.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Whitcomb.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes.
There are a couple of outstanding items related to the plan. There is a memorandum dated July the 7th, that contained a number of, items to be addressed, all outside agency type approvals and administrative issues. So we recommend, approval of the document subject to addressing the engineer's comments dated 7/7/2020, execution of a developer's agreement, and the posting of the financial security in an amount approved by the engineer.
Okay.
I'll change my, motion to include that.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, unless I hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. Thank you. Moving on.
Discussion of possible action to authorize TFM to issue a request for proposals from the General Obligation Note Series of 2020.
So moved. Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Agarton. Any other discussion? Hearing none, unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. Motion carries. Next item.
Discussion of possible action to approve the special events permit application for a chicken barbecue to raise funds for the New Year's Eve wrench drop to be held in Memorial Park on Saturday, July 18th, 2020, from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
The discussion is the July the 18th, 2020 is bad coming up.
It sure is.
And we're in the middle of all this crap.
We are.
This is going to be, and I was going to say, Mr. Wells, Spirit and I speak to it, but this is going to be like a food truck, barbecue truck coming in, cooking the stuff. These people are gonna be coming in through the circle, picking up their meals and driving out the other side.
It'll be like curbside pickup.
It's not, they're not gonna be, okay, all right, no, say that.
No congregating.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
my same question.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. So, now after that discussion, I forget if we had a.
We did.
You did? Yes, we did, okay. I recall now, thank you. All right, so any other discussion? Properly moved and seconded. Unless I hear negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. And the motion's approved.
Discussion of possible action to approve the special events permit application for a New Year's Eve ranch drop to be held on Thursday, December 31st, 2020, starting at 9 p.m. and running until 12:01 a.m. on Friday, January the 1st, 2021.
Do I hear a motion? Second. Drew was first there. Mr. Baumann?
Go ahead.
And Mr. Whitcomb gets the second. I would think that the same question might come up here.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on, but we want to approve it so that it's on the docket. It's easier to cancel it than it is to try to get it at the last minute.
Well, this also involves a state road, so I know the chief has to have this submitted a certain time ahead of time, so, because it involves a road closure.
Right. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. The motion carries. Next item.
Discussion of possible action to approve a request for the installation of a banner on East Main Street and South Chestnut Street on December 1st, 2020, advertising the ranch drop. The banner is to be removed no later than January 8th, 2021.
Do we have a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Ms. Angerton, and Mr. Whitcomb seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, unless you hear a negative response, record the vote as unanimous. Next item.
Discussion of possible action to approve the renewal of handicap parking spaces for 20 West Allen Street and 209 South York Street.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right.
Yes,
Mr. Whitcomb and
220.
made 220 now.
220.
220 West Allen and 209 South York. Yeah, it sounded like 20.
It caught on my lip.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Who seconded it?
Sarah did.
Mrs. Agaton?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. And the motion carries. Next item.
Discussion of possible action on the resignation of Paula Leibart from the Shade Tree Commission.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Pellman.
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitcomb. Any discussion? Unless you hear a negative response, record the vote as unanimous. Motion carries. Next item.
Discussion of possible action to appoint Noma to the planning commission for the term to expire December 31st, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Pellman, thank you. Second from Mr. Anthony. Any discussion? Unless you hear a negative response, record the vote as unanimous. Next item.
Discussion of possible action to approve expenditures from all funds for the period beginning June 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2020. And they are as listed below.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, unless you hear a negative response, will record the vote as unanimous. Thank you, the motion carries. This time,
One more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Discussion of possible action to appoint Gary Fake Jr. to the municipal authority to fulfill the remainder of Jack Wenchell's term to December 31st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Whitcomb. Any discussion? Hearing none, unless you hear a negative response, we'll record the vote as unanimous. I believe that's it now, right, Mr. Shirsky? Thank you. At this point in the program, it's second opportunity for citizen comments. Are there any?
Sir, I'd like to thank you for supporting the wrench drop. It's been a challenge even to put the thing together. It's gonna be a scaled-back version this year. It's gonna be all outdoor and a simplified version. We got a few activities scheduled right now that, let's hope the pandemic doesn't come back and we can have a fun time on New Year's Eve. Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much for all your work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other business?
No, sir.
You may see a sweeper running around, street sweeper running around town. We're having a demo in. Our young man that we hired to run the compost site and do the street sweeping is very excited. He's like a kid with a new toy. He's got all kinds of plans for tomorrow with it, so you'll probably see it running around town. The authority will be looking at this and another sweeper here shortly to see what we're gonna do and get a plan going forward, so.
Are we gonna notify citizens that we will be picketing again because of the street sweeping?
That is something that I need to discuss with the authority, because we're doing this more now for the MS4 side of it. And it's gonna be over the entire town. It's not gonna be just, and we're gonna be kind of messing with the schedule, so you may see the signs change.
Awesome.
So.
Well, I appreciate it on behalf of the house that gets flooded, so.
They did 30 inlets today with this machine, in about 4.5 hours, where it usually takes 2 guys with a dump truck, a shovel, and rakes to do 15 in 8 hours. So this.
Well, you can tell West Main Street's in dire need of.
They were told specifically to run along the curb there by your house.
Don't leave the flowers on the step.
Yeah, that's right. The third arm on there might almost reach his front porch.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
So keep an eye out on that, and you'll see it running around town.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Nothing, but thank you for asking.
You're quite welcome. Mr. Anthony?
Nothing, but thank you for asking.
Pretty polite tonight.
I have a little request, Roger, is there some way we can, you know my, position with our manager of our town team? Is there somehow we can turn that water onto the bathrooms and not open the bathrooms, but restore water to his ice machine?
Did he tell you to call me today, or tell you that?
No, he didn't call, no, but I was with him when he was calling. And he never said anything to me, like, hey, you know, promote this idea, but I just, I do hear about it.
He did say that you were there, whenever you.
Oh, he did, okay.
Yeah. He said, you know, Scotty's here right now, and I'm like, oh, okay, Bill, Bill Rosenbaum did ask about turning the water on to the concession stand. He said they're playing at places in New York and stuff where they have the bathrooms open, the concession stands are open, all this stuff. From what I'm reading and from the guidance I'm getting from Nate, unless we're planning on disinfecting the bathrooms, he suggests that we keep them closed and let Associated Products use the porta-johns, and do the disinfecting. And because having people here in the evenings to do the bathroom. Now, the concession stand's a different story. With the ice maker, Bill made a persuasive, and you know how Bill can be persuasive, discussion, Scotty's laughing at argument for, from a safety standpoint of having the water on at the concession stand, especially as hot and stuff is what it is right now. So I can consider it. I'm gonna have to see when I can get Suez and Zimmerman's coordinated to get the water turned on. By then, fall season may be over, to be quite honest.
Well, they still got, through July and maybe even early, I think they played 3 or 4 home games and they have 13, so.
Okay.
So there's still a good stretch there that would be helpful.
Usually I've got to schedule them 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time, so it may be a while until we get it turned on, but I'm not gonna have it on for Thursday's game, I can almost guarantee that. So, but we can see, I'll talk to Zimmerman and see if we can schedule to get the water turned on there, and keep the bathrooms shut down. Yep.
Nothing from me.
I just wanted to let you guys know, I attended the discussion of race in the park. It was a great event. There was about 125 people that came out, so way more than we approved, but, it was a really nice crowd and a great discussion, and it got, pretty good press out there for those kids, so I was really proud of what they did. And then my second is going out to the law enforcement, because I know on the 4th of July, I saw their presence out in the community trying to stop those teenage bandits with their fireworks, so it was appreciated. Thank you.
Nothing.
Nothing, sir.
Nothing, sir? Nothing, Chief? Good to see you again.
Thank you.
I have nothing further, and so at this time, we will adjourn and go to an executive session on a